cult members and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And I need to clean my glasses. And welcome to episode 4 review, discussion, reaction of Ms. Marvel called Seeing Red.
Episode 4.
We have a spoiler discussion. I actually brought notes because I actually we talked about this in the first episode. We have very, very limited knowledge of Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the stuff that we're learning before the show was kind of like, she's kind of the modern day Spider-Man not street level, but like protecting Jersey City and all that kind of thing.
Street level,
yeah, that kind of thing. But it's much more of a coming of age story for the modern kind of thing. So after this episode, I started reading because I'm last week was difficult for me because it was the finale of Kenobi and I was so wrapped up in that and emotionally drained and everything. We watched the third episode of Ms. Marvel, and I in my part of the review I was like, this episode was okay. And then later on I started realizing the episode was really good.
Yeah.
And this one's even better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this was maybe my favorite. Although I mean I loved the dance scene at the wedding last week. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking about it when we were watching and I was like, I really, and then it was over and I was like, I want more.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
That is a very good sign. I also want to talk about the structure that they're doing with this show. But I just wanted to kind of lay it out there that I can admit when I'm wrong. When I'm like, this is not hitting me. It hit me. It just took a little bit for it to get there.
A little delayed hit.
It was a late hit, and part of that is Disney. You can't drop 2 awesome shows in the same night. It's just
rough.
It's rough. It's rough for all of us. And by the way, The Boys is going on. We got Stranger Things coming. Umbrella Academy, just Umbrella Academy. So like, I'm not complaining about the content that we're getting. I'm just complaining that maybe can we spread it out a little bit more.
Right.
I like thin layers of jam on my Jammy Dodger, not thick levels of jam. That's not how any of this works.
Too much jam.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack in this episode, and my notes are about the red dagger. And the red dagger from the comics is introduced later in the run.
Okay.
And he has no powers. He is just a vigilante in I'm trying to remember the name of the city. That's Kamala's name. Karachi. He is
right, and they showed signs that said "Welcome to
Karachi City" and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, and if I am, I apologize. I have a hard enough time with English. So, but I like his introduction as a important character for Kamala, but also the red daggers themselves, helping her try to figure out her powers outside of Bruno, like doing
the guy in the chair,
guy in the chair thing.
Who doesn't know? I mean, he's just textbooking it.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what he's.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
Doing.
But I really like his introduction, and he has no powers within the comics.
Right.
He kind of hints at maybe understanding that Kamala is got something within her.
Right. Well, I mean, he's not surprised when she uses her powers against him.
Yeah.
When they are first introduced to each other. So, I'm pretty sure the other guy that died, spoilers,
which said spoilers
I
earlier.
don't remember what his name
I'm working on it.
was. But I get the feeling that he has kind of been training him to this, to the stay,
right?
For the stay to
for
come.
This to be the heir apparent to what the Red Daggers as a group are.
Yeah.
His name is Walid.
Okay.
W-A-L.
Walid.
Walid. Yeah. I love his outfit. The costuming in this show is on point.
Right. Great
But
colorful.
in the from the what I was reading and stuff like that in the comics, Kamala and then Cameron, no, Kareem.
Kareem.
Uh,
Kareem.
they have a friend, foe, frenemy, possible love interest, kind of back and forth between them. And it doesn't necessarily feel like they're going to do this good guy, bad guy kind of thing, kind of dynamic with him, because they have the clandestines who are
Right.
really the big bad.
Well, and his mom kind of left him at the DODC prison, you know, and
The cousin from
no, it's his mom.
right. But I'm talking about the red dagger guy.
Okay, that's not Karam. Karam is the one from.
This is why I brought notes, because I don't know. Karam has no Terrigen Mist or special bracelet. He's just a regular Joe.
Oh, Kareem. Okay. Kareem. So there's
Kareem and Karam.
Karam. Okay.
Here we go. Welcome to Star Wars, where everybody's name is just a little bit different from all the other different. But him being not maybe a love interest, maybe not. You know, she's still a teenage girl trying to figure out who she is as a person.
Well, and she doesn't live in this country.
And she doesn't live in Pakistan.
Right. So is he going to go back to America with her?
In the comic, again, this is why I read notes. In the comic, he is part of an exchange program, goes and lives with Kamala's family, but they don't know who each other are.
Oh, okay.
So it's that kind of like they're running around kind of doing stuff together or stopping one another from doing the right thing or whatever, but they don't
they're
know.
Masked, so they don't. Yeah,
right.
Got it.
This is why they wear masks.
I mean, and maybe since Waleed,
yeah,
is apparently dead, I have my doubts. I think maybe he will come back, but I mean, I guess that's an opportunity for him to now be without adult supervision.
Right.
So
I can do whatever I want.
Well, yeah, or just.
I also think that there's a possibility of, if they do a season 2 or if something happens in the Marvels, where he is sidekick is not the right way of putting it, but he's not going to want to leave Karachi City because he is kind of the defender of this. He's the Oliver Queen, to use a DC reference.
Yeah.
He's trying to keep people safe as much as he can without powers, but he can throw really cool
knives.
Well,
he's Hawkeye or Black Widow. Neither of them have powers, but they're in the Avengers, right? They're just badasses at what they can do.
Yeah. I just with his introduction, it broadens the universe of what this show is, and part of that too is my nose itches and it's making me crazy.
You were just a hot mess.
I'm a hot mess. Them, Waleed and Kareem explaining why the clandestines are trying to get the bangle to go back to their other plane of existence, and I like that they kind of introduce the site. Not introduce. They continue on with the Marvel discussion of there's multiple universes out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are very close to each other. Some of them are paint worlds. We just watched Doctor Strange again. But in that little training montage, they actually explain why the clandestines are there, why they want the bangle, and they want to take their world and kind of remake it here on our plane of existence.
Or
the
or just wipe out our plane of existence and bring theirs in fully, which why? But all right.
It's the Lex. I'm just stop touching my nose. It's that Lex Luthor. I just want to watch the world burn kind of, or Joker kind of like. I am I myself. I think I'm doing the right thing, but in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah, I would like to have them have the clandestines explain their reasoning behind doing
Yeah.
it. Right? We've gotten um, this side, our side, this universe's or this multiverse or whatever side that they're trying to, you know, take over everything.
Yeah.
Um, but everybody's a hero in their own story. So, what is their reasoning? Why they need,
Is
like
their plane
dying?
dying,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
there not enough space
Or they're
anymore, or
just
whatever?
jerks.
Or they're just jerks, which is also possible.
Yeah.
Thanos was right. The clandestines themselves breaking out of the DODC. Um, I like the scene. I like that resolution of them, like they have to get out and they have to go find Kamala.
Right.
That scene felt like like they threw it in last minute.
Yeah, it's
not clunky or anything. It just seems out of place all of a sudden. Like they had something else.
Yeah.
Or that was a pandemic thing. Like
Maybe.
they had a bigger escape plan kind of set up.
Yeah. Because you just go from them being caught to now all of a sudden they're in this Supermax facility chained to a bar and walking through a hallway, and then they just break out. You're like, okay.
And they leave Karam, right?
Right.
So we decided, and they leave Karam there.
Right.
Which is such a dick move.
Right. He's like,
he's the one that helped,
Mommy.
like, started the whole process of getting them out, like helping them
right.
escape.
And he got shot, and yeah.
But I just that whole sequence just seemed misplaced. Like it had a different feeling to it.
Yeah.
It was lit differently.
Yeah.
And so it was just. I'm okay with it. It helps the story. We had to explain how they got out.
Yeah.
But it just, and then all of a sudden they're in Pakistan. Like it just was like, oh, okay, like that was quick.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah.
I don't
weird.
I don't necessarily hold that against storytelling. When you have only 6 episodes, you kind of have to do a 3-minute scene when you need a 15-minute scene.
Right.
And so that was just kind of what that felt like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe something just didn't work on the edit, and they just threw it together really quick because all their outfits are just real simple. And
yeah, and for as big as of a scene, I guess of them being caught was, this was just kind of out of place.
It almost feels like there's a cutscene somewhere where the 2 investigators that were talking to cheerleader chick, I can't remember her name.
Megan?
I can't remember off the top of my head. But like there's a interrogation scene missing in there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, you guys are just wackadoo. You need to go in the sub basement.
Yeah. Yeah.
So them getting to Karachi City in Pakistan. Nani, grandma was the driving force, and the conversation with mom and Kamala on the plane about ruining the wedding and all this other stuff. Let's call it a truce until we get done, and then let's talk about jet lag. You're the worst host ever by going and grabbing Kamala when she was jet lagged and stuff.
Well, that was her mom, wasn't it?
Oh, it was
no,
it was
her.
It was a cousin.
It was her cousin.
Cousin
yeah,
to start, but
because they're like, "We're ready to go," and she's like, "No,
I'm still sleeping." And the making fun of the sloth
baby
thingy, whatever.
He had the cutest sweater on.
So the big thing about going to Pakistan is, we get the training montage with the red daggers, and she really gets to properly understand her powers. She's not fully there yet. She does kind of work her way into the costume. She buys called shrong, the long tunic kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what those are called, but yeah.
But it's the red under shirt, and then she gets the vest, and we've got the mask. We're working our way to the costume.
Yep.
But her conversation with her grandmother about just the partition, and she's an artist and apparently pretty well to do because that house is pretty awesome.
It
in
is.
The center of
Karachi
City.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that came out of that whole conversation is she knows that Kamala's having these visions because she's having the same vision.
Right.
And she had to come there to learn what it all meant.
Right, from her point of view. I mean,
Right.
because the now their names just escape me. The bad guys, the
Clandestines.
the clandestines, told her she was a djinn, but
Right.
she doesn't like. Okay, what does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean for my family? And then why am I having these visions about a train? I kind of know this family story, but how does this all fit in? And then grandma's being a little weird about I'm having it too, and then mom is just like completely like none of this is happening. I mean, she has to know.
I really think she's having the same visions, but she's suppressing it all because even in her conversation she had with her mom, when mom had a conversation with her mom, she's like, you need to come to America. And she's like, you went halfway around the world to get away from me.
Yeah.
She's like, I was tired of your crazy schemes, your crazy stories.
Right.
And this is going to be a really weird reference, but it very much feels like the National Treasure, the family story that's passed on from one generation to the next, and then one generation says,
Dad is like, this isn't
it. And then it almost feels like that kind of same kind of rhythm to it.
Yeah. But I mean, I felt like either it skips a generation or she just is a non-believer, and so it's just not kind of getting into her, because Kamala is very much like her Nani. She's she might not be an artist, but she is an artist in her own way, like on the internet, right? She's doing all this stuff, and so she's open and friendly and laughs easily and all of this. And her mom, while not super reserved, is more reserved and kind of like, oh, this is just silly. And I mean, she has to know that this stuff is, or at least have some idea that it's going on.
There's
with
something more than just Kamala being a rebellious teenager.
All of a sudden, as soon as that bangle showed up.
Yeah, as soon as the bangle showed up, and they've done a really good job of making sure that Kamala hides the bangle whenever she's with mom.
Yeah,
they've done a really good job about that, so it hasn't really popped up. Obviously, I'm sure there's some heavy spoilers or new rock stars that's pointed it out at some point in time. But the dynamic between the three women, and then you have this conversation between Nani and Kamala about it's okay that you are a djinn. It's okay. It's not. It doesn't define you.
Yeah.
That you are of this. It doesn't. What is that? It's a title. It doesn't mean anything. It's what you do with whatever power or whatever thing it is. And it's very much that kind of, with great power also comes great responsibility kind of conversation, but it's done in a very different kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I just love Nani's line of, I've had many things happen in my life, and I have found beauty in the broken pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of giving Kamala this thing. It's like, it's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if things go bad. You're going to be able to find your purpose or whatever.
Right. Well, and I kind of feel like, and maybe this will be completely untrue, but I kind of feel like it's manifested in these superpowers for Kamala, that it may not necessarily, like, she is living in this today world, the today Marvel universe, where superheroes and people running around in masks is okay. It's not a big deal. And so, for her Nani, it probably was more of a smaller thing for her to use or do, not necessarily this, I'm going to swing from a 20-story building and save a kid who's falling kind of thing, right? So it's more of a, personal experience.
And
The
and,
Bengal.
and Nani also had that conversation too on the deck overlooking the city about, I'm this old and I'm still trying to figure out who I am because I'm a child of India, but I
live in Pakistan.
I live in Pakistan because of the partition.
Right.
I'm dying over here. I'm a hot mess in this episode. But I just sometimes the conversation you need to have comes not necessarily from your parents, because you're not going to necessarily listen to your parents, but you're going to listen to your cool uncle or that weird aunt or your nanny or whatever. It's and that is kind of reflected in the conversation that Nani and Mom have a few minutes later about like just accepting of yourself and your circumstances and who you're with and like all that kind of like I just like the symmetry of it all, and it also ties into the training montage that you get with the red daggers, and so it just I this was a training montage episode with actually like good dialogue in it.
Yeah,
and then you have a big fight at the end.
I think it's
and a tuk race,
right? Which we didn't know we needed until we saw it. I think it's one more thing on this. I think that it's interesting that Kamala has this kind of reserved relationship with her mother. She has this very open relationship with her Nani, and vice versa. So the mom has like these kind of strained relationships with both of them, but but Kamala and Nani's relationship is very open, and so it's like, hopefully by the end of this season, that they're able to, it's not that Kamala doesn't want to tell her mom. She just doesn't really feel like
she can yet.
She can.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with her Nani. Like has told the mom, and she hasn't. She went thousands of miles away to get away from her crazy talk, so she doesn't feel like she can talk to her either. So
it's it definitely there's definitely something there with Mom at some level. There has to be something there where she knows and she's just suppressing it, or she's cut herself off from the force, or whatever it is, because she doesn't have that, or she doesn't want it. She doesn't want the responsibility of what that means.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of discussion in this genre. I'm not just saying Marvel, but this genre of comic book storytelling that we're getting in live action about strained relationships between fathers and mothers and children and their grandparents, and like it's an important conversation to have. It's really important conversation to have about childhood drama or trauma, or just not accepting your parents for who they are, or not accepting who you are yourself. And it's been in Umbrella Academy, it was in Moon Knight, it's been in a lot of stuff, and it's all this kind of different angles from that same kind of conversation of what parents do to their children to make their children not be their best version of themselves.
Yep.
Or vice versa. Or vice versa. Children just being douchebags and stuff. I'm trying to think. So they have this big awesome fight through Karachi City, which I love. Street level in narrow alleyways, hanging laundry, tuk-tuks, like just I just love that intimacy of chase scenes. One of the reasons I love the Bourne series is because you have several of those.
Yeah.
Through Venice and Paris and that kind of stuff.
I don't think we've ever seen one in Pakistan like this.
Right.
And so I don't know what the buses are called, but they're like the lunch buses, right? We learned about this on Top Gear.
Top Gear. Thanks, Top Gear.
And they tip it over and all the lunches go everywhere. And I'm just thinking, oh, those poor people aren't going to get their lunch.
Right. I thought the same thing. It could be oil containers. I don't know, but that was the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah, containers. The metal containers, they're the lunch, the lunch trucks.
But that whole sequence, just the fight choreography and the use of the terrain and displaying the colors, and like I really
Yeah.
like that. But the final fight between after uh Walid
Really.
is killed, um and Karam and
Kareem.
Kareem Kareem and Kamala take their final stand, and I think it's the dying house. I think there's all the
Yeah.
dying
The
fabric,
dying
whatever,
fabrics.
and
Yeah.
against the clandestines, and a couple of the clandestines get knocked off in that fight. Uh, but I cannot remember the main one. That's the mother
Yeah.
of Karam.
Karam.
But
Karam.
she hits the bangle
Yeah.
with her spear, and it transports Kamala to the last trains leaving before partition.
Yep.
And I love is not the right word, but I love the idea of showing that and that franticness, because it's a main part of what this story has been about.
Yeah.
Is the idea of the partition.
Yeah. Well, and history is one thing when you're reading about it, but when you can actually kind of witness it, and obviously the only way we can witness it is through movies and shows and stuff like Dunkirk, right?
Right.
You're like, you can tell that story verbally or read about it, and yeah, okay, it's cool, but to watch that movie, it's very impactful. And so it's the same thing, right? You're getting to see, you can hear about people trying to get on the train, and I had one kind of vision of what that looked like in my mind, and then they show it to us, and it's just very, very different.
And the way they've kind of laid it out in front of us in the show was there was one train left, and Nani got on the train thanks to following the stars to find Dad. Like, but there was more than one train there, and there's thousands of people trying to get on the train.
Yeah.
And there's I've seen pictures and videos of Pakistan and India where there's people hanging on the train going from one village to the next.
Yeah.
And that's just, for us, well, okay, here in Arizona we don't have trains. We don't understand the concept of public transportation in this state. But that concept of you're so desperate to flee that you will do anything you can to be on this train.
Right.
And then throw in the bags of probably whatever clothes or whatever possessions they have left. But Kamala, like getting on top of the train, and I love the cinematography in that shot where all the trains are very black. It's very kind of muted colors.
Yep.
Everybody's in these kind of like off cream color kind of shirts or whatever, which is very much a contrast from the fight we just had.
Right.
With all the color through the city and stuff like that. But then she stands up on the train, and she's very obviously sticks out with her costume.
Red and blue costume.
Yeah.
I also noticed right when she transported, you got the purple that when Walid was showing her in kind of the 3D screen thing, that this is their dimension and this is our dimension, and they're trying to, their dimension was all purples.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they hit the bracelet and she falls backwards, there's like this ripple of the purple, and I thought that's what was going to happen when she was going to go there. So it makes me wonder if this vision is some part of that other dimension, something that is trying to come through from that dimension.
Yeah, but they've kind of done the train is the past calling to her, which is why she went to Nani.
Right. Why would they put that purple in there?
Well, they used the purple early in the first episode when she they were at Avengers Con, and she fell, and her first time like using the powers of the bangle, she falls through the floor, and then it pops up and it's all purple, and there's a bunch of figures there and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very much the ancestral plane. It's not the ancestral plane, but they use purples a lot in the ancestral plane too.
Yeah.
So and leaving it there. I really like that's the end of the second act,
Right.
and now we go into the third act of what's going to go on.
Yep.
I two things I want to talk about before we get out of here. One is the 6 episode structure. I get why they're doing 6 episodes. I'm totally down for it. It's 2 episodes or one arc, or the first act, two episodes, the second act, 2 episodes, third act. I get it. I'm totally down. I want more. This is my problem with Kenobi. This is my problem with Moon Knight. Like, I understand story structure when it comes to that kind of thing. I want 8 episodes because I want more time with Bruno and his backstory. Because all we know is he's a really smart kid who's living on his own. I want to know more about Bruno and why he wants to spend so much time with Kamala and her family.
Yeah.
I want to spend more time with Kareem and, like, why is he with the Red Dragon or the Red Daggers? It's really hard not to say Red Dragons. Why? How did he get sucked in? We're going to get there. That probably in the next episode. Why are the clandestines there? Like we were talking about earlier. Like I like the 6 episode structure. I get it. I understand why it's there. I just want more.
Yeah, and I mean it. From their point of view, it leaves so many more stories to tell.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big Star Wars fan, and they'll give you a little nugget of something, and then in 4 stories from now, they'll come back and tell that part of that story. I'm actually listening to a book that is going back and giving us more details about nuggets they gave us in Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. And so I really love that. I really love that kind of, we can come back to it later for the purposes of this story. We can't tell that right now. Like I said, I'm really enjoying the show, so I want more.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about too, this is something why I love genre so much, specifically sci-fi, but also the comic book genre. I've learned more about history, and I was a history major who I wanted to teach history in high school.
Yep.
I've learned more about history and world cultures in this, The Watchmen, Moon Knight, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Umbrella Academy. Like all these shows are giving us different views of the world that I didn't know existed, or I didn't have a better knowledge of their existence. I knew they exist, but I'm just loving their time they're spending with the Muslim culture. We talked about this with the day of when they went to prayer,
the mosque,
the mosque and stuff, and then we go to spend time in Pakistan, and they talk about the partition. I probably knew about the partition, probably because of Doctor Who, but to spend time and how it affected this whole region of the world. And I love the line that they used this episode.
And still affecting them.
It's still affecting them. And I just love that in this episode they talked about, like, all of a sudden my world changed because some old English guy decided there was a line on the map, and we're still paying the price for that decision. And I'm just like I've never spent any time learning about any of this stuff because it's not something that is taught here.
Right. Because anything that ends in a stan is any country that ends in a stan is bad.
But also the Tulsa massacre that we learned about in the first 5 minutes of Watchmen.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Until that episode was done and everybody starts talking about, like, oh yeah, that was a real thing that happened. I'm
yeah.
Like, they killed 300 black people because they were black in Tulsa.
They actually just had like 2 living survivors from it who were like 100 or pretty close to it. They just had a thing a couple weeks ago about it. I was like, hey, I know about that now.
But I want now, because I've watched these, I want to go read the comics, and I want to learn more about the culture, and I want to look, because the things I've seen, the way they presented it is something I find interesting compared to, as much as I love Zero Dark 30 or Final Frontier, not Final Frontier. What was the name of that? The Frontier. The 5 guys trying to get out of Afghanistan because their helicopter crashed.
Oh,
with, like,
the Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember.
It's been presented to us as they are the big bads, and it was like the 80s with the Russians. They're the big bad, and it just, I just appreciate that they're spending the time to give us cultural education.
Right.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, so that's what we want to talk about with this episode 4, called something Seeking Red, of Miss Marvel. Let us know what you thought of this episode and our reaction, discussion, and thoughts on it in the comments down below. Please be nice; that's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.